Hey there, Vanagon addicts. It's Ken Wilford here at Van again, and I'm hoping that we are getting finally done with this project. So you can see that we've got our engine mounts, stuff and things put back on. We've got our intake put back on. We've got all of our connections hooked up just about. Maybe there's a couple still that I'm still working on, but pretty close to being all hooked up. Putting the intake back on wasn't too bad. The biggest issue is so many different connections and different sensors and things, and like you have to thread a sensor through this intake while you're installing it, and then there's another sensor plug thing hidden down here. So you have to like really make sure when you're doing it that you kind of do it in reverse of how you took it apart to make sure you get everything hooked up. The other issue I ran into was installing this throttle body. It's kind of in the way of getting to the mount for there's like a metal bracket underneath of this air intake. And unless this throttle body's out of the way, you can't get to it. But when you put the bracket back in, then you got to put the throttle body back in. It's very difficult to get to the 4 bolts that holds the throttle body to the intake. So, I mean, I saw some people leaving the throttle body on the intake and taking the intake on and off. Other people, actually all data said take it off. And so I took it off. But believe me, putting it back on was test the patience of Job and everybody else. All right, so I was trying to like reach around behind my back to get my fingers on some of these screws and tighten them up. And so I'm facing the car backwards and doing some kind of like reverse maneuvers with my elbow bending the opposite direction. It was great, okay? And I definitely paid a price for it last night. I was really hurting. That's one of the things I've found with this particular car is it's not friendly for mechanics at all. And it requires the most physical, amount of effort I've ever been through in working on a vehicle in my entire life. Because I'll tell you why. This bolt down here, okay, we got our motor put back up. This bolt down here on the flywheel, it's a one-use, or on the main pulley, one-use bolt. So it is a torque to yield bolt. And you torque it to 119. You have to do the counter hold tool. Okay, and then you have to take it a whole nother 90 degrees. Okay, so I got it to 119 by myself pretty easily, and was holding it and everything was fine. Then I went to go the next 90 degrees, and so far I have been unsuccessful. I think I have maybe gotten half of that, but the problem you have is having to juggle the counter hold tool and a long enough breaker bar to be able to turn this thing while you're also holding the counter hold tool. The counter hold tool likes to pop out, at least the one I have, of here. And so you have to like basically push in on it the entire time you're trying to turn the other thing. Same exact problem I had when I was trying to take it apart. It's very, this counter hold tool, if there was a way that it could be like go in there and then bolt to the back side of the engine back here, like a special tool that would do that, that would work out way better, because then you could bolt it in place, it would hold it no matter what. And then you just go to town on this bolt with the breaker bar or whatever. But because you have to hold the counter hold tool and the thing, it basically requires 2 very strong individuals. Okay, I would say full-grown men that are over 200 pounds, most likely. Okay, 2 very strong human individuals to accomplish getting this thing loose and also getting this thing put back together. So I tried several different things to do this. I tried doing it manually. That was, I wasn't making much progress that way. Then I thought, all right, here's what I'm going to do. Put a mark on the back side of the nut, or of the tool, okay, so socket, and then I'll use my big air gun. Okay, now I don't want to do this. I hate using air guns to tighten anything, because the thing of stripping stuff out is real. Well, I use my big air gun, and then I'll just watch the mark and make sure it doesn't go past 90 degrees and stop. Okay, and I thought, how can that be much different than doing it by hand? It probably is, because it's, air gunning it versus slowly torquing it. So I tried with my red air gun, didn't even budge it. Tried it with my super duper air gun, which I've never found a bolt that could not take off. Also did not budge it at all. So I didn't over tighten it with it because it couldn't even move it. So now I'm at the point where I'm trying to decide, should I try to continue to tighten it or should I just give up? Because physically, this car has put me through the mill. It has pushed me to all my limits physically. Endurance limits, strength limits, everything, okay? And I really don't understand why. Again, tightening this one bolt should not be something that requires you to use your limits. Now, everybody I was watching online that was doing this had this thing up in the air on a lift. They had the ability to walk under it. And if you could walk under it, you can use both arms, your entire body weight, push on this thing, and do the 90, okay? Because of where I'm at on the floor here, I don't have enough space for that. I'm laying on the floor or sitting up on the floor. I'm pushing on this thing as hard as I can, and it's not budging, okay? It's not budging. Yeah. So I'm at a loss, okay? I'm at a loss here. Why this bolt would need to be that tight versus all the other bolts I've ever installed on motors that didn't need to be this tight. I know this bolt is holding a lot of stuff together. You've got this pulley itself. You've got, the stuff on the timing chains and all that stuff. But I am telling you, probably the amount of force on this bolt is excess of 300 and something foot-pounds. That's the other frustrating part about this whole torque to yield business to me, is that, you're telling people, go to a certain torque, then go another 90 degrees. What the heck does that even mean, right? What does that mean? Because it's very subjective. You turn it 45 degrees and stuff is flexing. Like I had it held with this and it was pushing up against stuff. It was flexing all the place. How do I know exactly how many degrees I turned it? There's no way that I 100% know that. Then now it's did that. Does turning it more without it being one fluid motion, mess up the whole torque to yield thing? I have no idea. And it seems very, very stupid way to do something. If you said, hey, torque this to 350 foot-pounds, right? Then you could put a tool on it and know exactly how much force you're putting on it, torque it down, and that would be it. But no, we have to do it this new way that's dumb. Okay? Where you're basically leaving it up to you and, your amount of, turning things and stuff and things. Yeah, it's very stupid to me. But anyway, so if I can get this conquered, we're really just down to reinstalling the intake tubing, which is nothing. It all snaps together. And a couple bolts. And putting the serpentine belt back on. And then this thing, and putting the oil and the coolant back in. Don't forget that part. And this thing will be done. Okay, so my notes on this, okay? I mean, I'll do a video once it's all done and up and running and everything. My notes on this project is, if you are a novice mechanic, do not attempt this project. You will hate everything about it, and you might break half the stuff. Again, doing this intake is you have to be very, very careful with it to be nice to it and not break anything. If you're ham-fisted at all, you'll break all kinds of stuff, and you'll have to buy a brand new intake, which is several $100s. The same thing goes with this valve cover. The same thing goes with most of the stuff on this car. Very fragile stuff and things that you have to be very careful about not breaking. Then you get to this ridiculous thing down here, this bolt, and apparently you have to be, He-Man and the Masters of the Universe and, call upon the power of Grayskull or something to friggin' take this thing off or put it back on. And why? Okay. You know, you have to be two different guys to work on this car. You have to be the Mr. Super Meticulous and don't hurt anything guy. And then you have to be the super burly guy that, you know, snaps off every bolt that he ever touches just to get this thing back. I mean, I have a friend of mine I know that could tighten this bolt. I've not seen anything he couldn't pick up or snap or break. Okay, that's his strength level. He picked up a telephone pole one time, but almost pretty much by himself. And he worked for me and broke, 75% of the bolts that he tried to tighten. Okay, that's why he doesn't work for me anymore. One reason. But, so, you know, I know that this could be tightened all the way. But again, why make this so hard? There's no reason. Why make working on this motor so hard? Right? I would love to work on this motor if it wasn't so tedious and also physically challenging. Physically challenging. I mean, when you work on something for 4 hours and it feels like you've worked a full entire 8-hour day, something is not right. Okay, something is not right. So this is, hopefully maybe the second to the last video of this. Thank you guys for coming along and listening to my rants and my journey. Please like, share, subscribe, and hopefully I'll be doing one more of these, and then this project will be coming to an end. Thank you guys so much, and we will see you guys on the next video.